This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Well, we've had a lot of trouble here in California this week with fires and wind. We'll talk more about that during the video, but we're still going to get a lot of work done.
Yeah, and as you can see, we're sitting at the table that we worked on last week. Now this is just Ted sitting here on some bricks right now, and because this is the original table, but it's going to have to get extended out here, so we're going to have to cut a new one, and it's going to be made out of wood and all that good stuff. But a couple of you were interested in whether we got the height of this seat correctly last week when we talked about it and showed it. We did make it low enough so that there would be room for a 3 to 4 inch cushion, which I'm sitting on one right now, and yet my legs are just fine. So it was made for that, and also a slight cushion at the back as well. So we're fine on that, and the table's worked out excellently. So let's show you what we did this week. That's Monday, and as I said, it didn't take any time at all to put some glue beads down and set this down, put some weight on it, and we glued the backs on as well. Just put some screws in to hold them in place temporarily. And we have the end cut off down here now. So pretty much our bench is as it should be. So we did some good guessing on the epoxy. That's after we cleaned it all up, that's all that we have left. So it's good to go. And I'll show you later, but we fitted the bench and hatch in there, and it works fine. So we're good. Now, one thing we noticed is, as you can see, the bench leans out from where it attaches along the top of the cupboard here, to give an angle of the back. It leans out over here. Well, that's good news for us, because we're going to do the same thing on the sink side. Over on the starboard side, we're going to put a panel in just like this that's tilted out at the exact same angle. And what that's going to do for us is it's going to give us an area for our sink, because the cupboard wall is going to be sitting like this, the back of the cupboard. And so the sink sits in here, and then the back of the stainless steel overhangs over here. Well, this gives us room to put our plumbing in, and then we'll just cut a hatch into this so we can get to that plumbing. But because this is tilted out like that, it makes it perfect for us to fix that plumbing issue over there. And in the end, it will match, because this side of the boat will be identical to that side, so we like that. And that still gives you plenty of walking room through here. Now, one thing we still have to decide is if we're going to cut this back, which I probably am. No sense having this sticking out here, so I'll probably cut that back. But we'll wait on that and decide later if we want to do that. So we have a bench. Can't sit on it yet because it's setting up, but it's there. So what we're doing right now is going to glue in this curved piece right here into the corner. So Brian's already mixing, so I'm cleaning up, getting it prepped, and it's just about there. It's got to wipe it off, and we're ready to apply, because I hear the pitter-patter of little Brian's feet coming. Okay. Okay. Ready to epoxy. Let's get some epoxy in here.
You want to hold it open?
Yeah, if you can. Squeezing it out with some pressure so that it'll go down into these cracks as much as possible. Let's put her in. Okay. Scoot that board forward. I don't know if you can reach it. Okay. Bottom part seams in. That all seams in. Looks pretty good. I like it. Curve works nice, and of course, eventually fair it all and such, and get any faceting that's in it out and stuff. So it'll make a nice perfect curve there. So that concludes what we're going to do on this for now. There's still a little more work to go. There's a piece that goes on top of here to bring it up to the same height there. Which is actually a little taller than that because there's a piece that goes up there, so it goes up the width of a board, and so this piece will bring it up to the same height as that all the way across. And that piece that we put here is beveled over, so it makes a nice rounded surface up there. And other than that, it's looking pretty good. I was on the phone with Combi this morning, and they answered a question where I was making a mistake, and they set me right, which is good because we're working on getting our magnetic clutch mounted in here, because it has to be mounted onto this bracket and then that attached to the diesel engine, and then after that the Combi electric motor can be put in from the top at that point. But this has to be in here when you put the bracket in, and I had a couple problems, but it turned out to be all my issue. So this gear goes on down here, and that lines up with this one, and that's all working great. And the only thing we have to do is get a Allen that can fit in here to hold the Allen head steady as we tighten these up. So we're going to go over to the hardware store right now and try to find a shallow enough Allen. If we can't, we'll buy one that fits and we'll cut it off to make it work in there. But because we got to hold that while we tighten this, and then this pulls back. This pulls back into here at that point after you tighten the bolts down. So that's ready to go. That's good news, because that means we can put this into the boat, permanently get the engine, which is right now just sitting on the motor mounts, but it's not actually bolted down because we're gonna have to lift it in the air to put this on. And then we'll drop this whole thing back down in, get that all bolted in, and then we can put the electric motor in and get all that finished up. Why is that important? Because then we can get the engine hoist out of there, which has been in there for months. And once the engine hoist is out, we can build the two doors that are going to close over the engine and become the floor for the mattress for the bedroom in the back. And so we couldn't do any of that until this motor was ready to go, and it is now, this clutch is ready to go, excuse me. And now that the clutch is working, looks like it's great, we're going to get this all done, and then we can get that bifold door that we're designing for getting into the engine compartment later. Also got some hardware to test. This is for our hatches. These are little stainless steel flush hinges that we're thinking about using for our various hatches and places. And then this is a locking mechanism. This also goes flush to the deck and lifts up like so and turns. So we're going to test these out, and if we like them, then we will go with these for everywhere else on the boat that needs hinges like that. And latches for the deck hatches and such, benches, that kind of thing. What Brian's doing there, he's cutting some new webs for in here, because what we discovered is our shower goes right through the center of this web, and that causes us trouble because I'm trying to put the gray water tank down there, and we have to have a sump for the shower, and this is in the way. And so we're going to have to cut this back, not out, but cut a notch down into it to get the plumbing down in there. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to add additional webs here. So we're going to put one here, and then we're going to put another one over here. And between those, it's going to create the gray water that's underneath the shower, and that's where the sink and the washing machine are going to drain down and come into this gray water tank here. And so we didn't want the gray water tank to be these entire two compartments here. We don't want that much because we're turning 3/4 of this over here into a black water, and same thing over here into black water. So there's going to be black water on either side of the gray water tank, basically. So we're creating the gray water tank right now by making 2 more webs that we're going to glue in here. Now the diesel doesn't change from the last time we talked about it. It's over there, and those 2 compartments, this one right below the stair and the one over there. So those are going to become the diesel tanks, so we're going to be working on that very quickly as well. So what that means is it leaves 4 compartments down here that don't have something in them. All the other 4 have diesel or gray water or black water in them, but up there, that one's empty, this one's empty, that one up in the corner over there is empty, and that one in this corner over here is empty. This is our new divide. It's going to go in here. We have to notch it for this, so I'm going to take care of that right now. Oh, we're going to have to make some little fine-tuning adjustments here, so it's
You have to be
just a little high. Yeah, what time is it?
It's 10 after 3.
All right. There's some black lines there. Just thought I'd mention that, you know, several times we moved the diesel tanks around based on things we talked about with Schoenig and weight distributions and where we want the batteries and all that stuff. And if you don't remember that, there's several videos that go over that and as we bounce these things around. But the last one we came up with was we were going to put one diesel tank here and one here, and this would be our primary use tank because it's near the center of the boat, so it won't change the balance of the boat. And this one over here is our secondary backup tank that we won't use as much, but if we do use it, we'll pump extra water way forward over there into the larger water tanks because we expanded the size of our water tank up there. But we won't run full most of the time. We'll just run more towards full when we empty this diesel tank. But as this one uses, it's near the center of the boat, so it really doesn't cause us any trouble. So this is our primary use tank, our secondary use tank. But we didn't change that. The only thing we really changed today was based on the fact that this web piece here is just in an annoying place. It's not only is it right where I want to put the gray water tank for the shower and also in the way of the shower drain, it's also in the way of the daggerboard, which gets cut in right here. And I don't know why that wasn't prefigured in the plans, but nowhere in the plans does it show the daggerboard and this piece of webbing. It just shows either the daggerboard and the hull or this piece of webbing without the daggerboard, but it never shows both, so we never saw that the fact that it bisects through the daggerboard. If we had seen that, we would never have put that there, but that's where the plans told me to put it, so that's where we put it. But it's actually a mistake in the plan because the daggerboard goes through here. anyway, just to conclude, my battery cut out. So we wouldn't have done this that way had we known that was going to be there, but now we'll fix it. If you remember, back in 2024, we were working on our Daggerboard deck in my garage. And we put those aside because we had much bigger fish to fry, as in an entire big boat to get together. And we were in a hurry to get that sealed up before rains and stuff came. But we're back to winter now, and we got to the point now where we're working on the inside of the hull, and we want to get the sole in. And not only do we have to build all the fuel and black water and gray water tanks down into the sole, we also have to build the Daggerboard casings into the sides before we can seal that up. And to build the Daggerboard casings, you have to have finished Daggerboards because you use them as part of the mold to mold the Daggerboard casings. And so we're back to work here, and because we had to use off-cut foam for this, it was with all those pillars of epoxy, and it was very rough when we chopped it down. And so we're having to sand this, and we'll actually have to do some filling a little bit of pits that were caused where we have the epoxy pillars that came through. So we'll sand it smooth, and then we're going to use some filler epoxy to smooth it out before we start glassing the outsides of the Daggerboard. These are the sheaves go to raise and lower the Daggerboard, and so I have to smooth this over to the same angle as the board, obviously, because it's got to go up and down the side there. So taking off the majority of it right now, and then I'll use a little bit finer sander when I get to the last bit. But it's starting to get pretty close. A little more. Fortunately, because we had to use the off-cut foam that has these pillars in it, the pillars cause little divots when we cut it all. So we're having to fill all of the little holes with a scraping of thickened epoxy. If this was a finished coat, I'd be really upset. Ah, crap. Well, you may have been watching the news and seen all the massive wind and, of course, devastating fires. And our heart goes out to all of those people who lost their houses in this really terrible fire. This was the worst Santa Ana wind conditions that we've seen here in Southern California in over 10 years, which seems to go on par for us working on this boat, because we had, of course, the winter with the most rain in recorded history, and now the most wind in 10 years. And I'm at the lot this morning, and you can just see there's sort of some devastation here of stuff everywhere. And the boat itself, there we had some difficulties, but not to cause any huge drama here. The boat's fine. what happened is that we read the weather report about the wind, and it said there was going to be 23 miles per hour wind here. And 23 isn't that heavy. It's we get 10, 12, 15 all the time. So 23 was about twice that much. But, you know, just to be safe, we made sure the front of the cabin top roof there was strapped down because, of course, we haven't bonded that yet. Then, let me take a walk up here. The Admiral and I were watching on the security cameras at about 5 p.m. and we could see that the wind was blowing pretty strong. And so we came down to the lot and added more straps up forward here so that we could just be sure, because it looked like it was blowing about 35 or so miles per hour at that point. So we came down to add the 2 straps. Went home, and about 2 hours later, I'm watching security cameras, and I could see this roof right here lifting up and down from the wind, because we'd added straps out on the corners there, and then we already had this one that went across the top. And so Brian and I rushed down here and added these additional straps that go here from the center down and from that corner down, so that there are now 6 straps holding this down. And it's a good thing because the winds got up to here, probably 60 miles an hour gusts, and in other places it was up to 100, but right here we were seeing right about 60. So it was pretty strong, and this roof really wanted to leave, but it's still here. And the only things that came off were, we had this panel because we hadn't glued this one on yet on both sides, and so one of them ended up down there. The other one didn't fall before we got here, so I just took it down. And there's no major disasters, so we're good. Even our solar panels over there all stayed. So all in all, SV Lynx here came through that devastating amount of wind pretty well. The only disaster of sorts we had, not real much of a disaster, is we had our hardtop here clamped down up here, attached, and it came off. Ended up down there, and it's over there now where Brian is, and it just took a tiny little bit of damage on one corner, which is no big deal. We can fix that easily. So if that's the worst of things that happened to our boat, which it was, that's okay with us. It's a pretty horrible thing for a lot of people out there. It was a small thing for us, but it was because we came down here and really secured it really well to make sure we didn't lose this cabin top. Well, that would have been a disaster. It would have gone flying out there and probably been destroyed. These are really big panels, so to get these replaced would have been hard. But we're all good now. We also strapped the back down, even though the wind was coming from the other direction. I've already taken one off, but we had 2 straps going across the back as well, just so it wouldn't have any difficulties. You know, so why haven't we attached this roof down yet? Well, it just wasn't a huge priority. There's a lot of things that have to come before we get to that we want to do in the right sequence, and you know, we'll get to it. Now we're going to leave all these straps on because there's going to be a second wind condition this coming Sunday, which is just 3-4 days from now, and another one on Tuesday. They're not supposed to be as strong winds as we had, but we're just going to leave all the straps on. Now, as far as the tarps go, we're going to have to put those back up. Once the wind got up above 35 miles per hour, we just took the tarps off because they were just going to get destroyed by the whipping wind anyway. So that's why they're off right now. And we'll get them back on here for some protection, but not really fast here. It'll be all right for a short period here without it because we got these other wind conditions coming. We did have these temporary walls fall down, but that's no big deal. We were about to take those down anyway to take this sole out on the port side where we have it out on the other side. And there's no real damage to any of that, so no big deal. You did get a look at our all the cupboards we've got put in now over on the port side. So that's coming along nicely. That's the seat back for the table up above. But today we're going to do a little cleanup, and then we're going to get back to work on the dagger boards because we got to get those done and get the daggerboard casings made so that we can start mounting them in over here. Brian's upstairs cleaning up some of the wind dirt and things. But besides the dagger boards, we're also trying to get this electric motor in so that we can get the engine hoist out of the way. And that's why this is a priority for us. And now that we've got the correct piece from Combi here to get this done, our next issue was that to attach this, we have to tighten up these bolts. And the bolts are in here. They're these Allens. And you split this apart, can only go apart that far, and then you have to hold this with an Allen. But as you can see, these Allens won't go in there. So what we're going to have to do is shorten one of these Allens so that we make a special tool that can get inside of here and hold these Allens while we tighten these nuts on the other side over here. So I'm going to try and cut one off the right distance, and not going to need a ton of space to get in there, but a little bit. Pretty fast. Now I just need to do a little cleanup on it and give it a try. That should do it. Let's see. Alright. So now it can insert on there and hold that. So we can tighten this up and install it. It's all dusty now from all the wind. Alright, so this board is ready for round 2. Fill in any other small little holes. But it's looking a lot better already. So after the second round of filling in small holes, sand it again, and then we'll be ready to glass this side, but we won't do that. We're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side for 2 rounds, and then when the whole thing's ready, we'll glass the whole board. Then we got to work on the second board, because it's a Catamaran again. Before we continue doing finish work up here, I just realized we still have to cut this off, so we're going to do that right now. So we got to measure down 1650, which we've already done. Goes to there. And then over on the end, we move our 200 millimeters. Now we're going to connect the dots. I'm going on the inside. And that should land on this all the way, which it does. So that's where that gets cut off. That's why this was stair step, because we knew it was getting chopped eventually. Well, that eventually is today. Now, if you already know, the reason that this is cut up here at an angle like this is because when the board's all the way up, this part's sticking up in the air, and they're just presenting less wind resistance by taking that flat surface off. That's the only reason. But from here down is where it's in the board, in the casing, so that they need the full width. But up here where it's sticking out in the air, they don't need that. Round 2. Round 2, each round it gets a little smoother, so we'll let this set up for tomorrow. We'll give this one a sand, and I'm not sure if we'll have to do another round or not, because we might just go ahead and get the glass on there, because remember, we're going to be, after we glass it, we're going to fair it again on the top of the glass, so it only has to be so good for the glass to go on, and this is getting pretty close to that. Today we're cutting our bunk bed out, and this bunk bed is something that we added to the design of the boat recently, and I'll show you where it goes and everything, but we're getting ready to cut this offcut up to make some of the webs for our gray water, black water tank area, and we decided we better cut out this bunk piece because it's a really big piece, and we don't want to use up all of our large pieces by accident before we cut this big piece. So we're going to cut out that one right now. No. Take a look at it. All right, this is where the extra bunk is going to go in the stern cabin right here. And it's going to be hinged, so when we don't want to use it, it's going to tilt up against that back wall, and there'll be a piece right here to keep the mattress in, and a little lip there so people don't roll out of the bed. And that'll mean that when it does go up there, it'll be flush. The wall will be flat across here, you won't even see it. So this is where it'll be when it's closed and you're not using it. It'll just look like a wall there. And when it drops down, it uses that shelf part in the back there as part of it. That's plenty big for a single bunk, 7 feet by 35. So a drop down hidden bunk. I'm over on the port hull here, and today on both the starboard and port, we're working on our liquid tanks that are all kept down at the bottom of the boat here. And we have our 2 diesel tanks, which are, over here. Those 2 are diesel. And then we have a black water tank here for this head, a gray water tank right into the shower, and another black water tank for that head over there. But you see more walls than that, and that's because we also need baffles in these tanks. And so this is a floor support that was already in. It'll become a baffle for that tank there. This was a floor support already here, so it's going to become a baffle for the gray water tank area. And then this black water tank didn't have one, so we're going to put in a baffle. that's going to go there. Right now we're working on baffles for the 2 diesel tanks. On the other side of the boat, we've already done all of these and the first diesel tank. We only have 1 diesel tank left to do over there as far as cutting. Because these are all custom cut pieces. They didn't come with the kit because originally the kit didn't plan on having all these liquid tanks necessarily down here. We chose to do that, and we chose to do that because it puts the weight really low in the boat, and low is great for heavy weight in a catamaran. If whoever catch a gust of wind, it tries to lift one side of the hull, it's got to lift all of this weight comes out of the water and it becomes heavy and wants to bring it back down again. So it's stabilizing on the boat to keep weight low in the hull, but particularly below the water line, which all this is. And it's much better than if we had them up high, where it's much more tippy. So we like the idea of putting all of these different liquid tanks down low like this. Even the water is going to be down low, but just way up there for getting some weight forward. So just so we need all these baffles because otherwise you're going to get sloshing in there. Now remember also that the sole sits here and it's going to be supported by all these baffles as well. But there's another false top here, which is, I don't know what to call it, the false top. It's the top of the liquid tanks, but it's below the sole. And it's down about this much. And that leaves room for pipes and valves and stuff at the tops of the tanks, inspection ports, so that we can, put all the plumbing into the tanks and remove those to get into the tanks if we need to clean them out. So what we're going to do about the baffles, I don't want to have so many different access ports that each one's a potential leak and each one is expensive to buy. So what we're going to do is wherever these baffles are, we're going to cut a notch into it and we're going to put the access port. That's the word I'm looking for. We'll put the access port right here, and that way when you remove that access port, you can reach down this side of the tank or this side of the tank on either side of the baffle. So we'll do that. Those will always be centered on these baffles, those inspections. So that way each tank only has to have 1 inspection port on there. Same thing on the diesel tank. We'll put it right dead center so that we can come down to either side of the diesel tank if we need to get in there and clean it. So the way we have been cutting these to make them fit here with this changing curvature is we used cardboard and created a cutout for it here. And we get that to fit first. Then we take this and we trace it out onto our board, and then we use our jigsaw and circular saw to cut out the piece. But we tend to cut it a little large so that it's close, but needs a little bit of tweaking, and that way we can adjust it with a grinder and just shave off a little bit until it fits in here perfectly. So for example, this one is close, we just cut it out, but I need to get the grinder and make some adjustments here. So at this point, everything's perfect except the top is just a little too tall. For that, I'm going to take it out and we'll shave just a little fraction off the top edge, and this will be done. It's getting late in the day, and we've got all of those baffles and webs cut and finished, but we don't want to start glassing that in today because we're going to run out of time. But we've got this daggerboard to take to phase 2 of sanding, so we're going to do that. So you might ask, why are we cutting out more baffles when we said we finished them all? Well, that's because we discovered an issue with our diesel tank design, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But we need 2 more baffles. All right, let me explain the issue. If you recall, we have had these diesel tanks all over the place as we tried different concepts, and we ended up wanting to put them both, one here and one here, and this is a baffle for one of them, and then there's another baffle that goes on this one, so the 2 tanks. Here's where the problem came in. This is the port that goes on top of the diesel, and it has to be a certain depth down in here to allow these tubes to bend as they come out of here. We can't kink them over, so they have to have some room. So it has to be down pretty far. If we lower it down that far, the top of the tank ends up very low down here. And being that this is a sloped side, the biggest volume is in the top part. So when we take this down that far, we're losing a lot of fuel volume in these tanks. And that means that we don't have enough fuel. So there's a simple solution. We need more fuel. So we're going to use this, and we're adding this one in here too as a third one. Now this is going to be its own tank, so it'll have its own valve sitting in here. But this up here is going to be one tank. This is just going to be a baffle, and there'll be the 2 baffles that we're going to add. And we just cut this one. Let's see how it fits. Pretty well. All right, so there'll be 2 baffles here, and we're going to be putting another, since this is a separate tank, we'll be putting another one of these right here, but of course way down here at this level, because this is where the top of the tank will be down here. So we're going to notch these 2 baffles in this wall. We're going to notch these down, and then this will set way down here, but dead center here. So when we remove this, we can reach into all 4 of these compartments if we really had to get a hose in there to clean them up or something like that. So that way we only have to have this one port, and it'll service all 4 quadrants of this tank. On this one, it will be one port sitting out here somewhere, and again, we'll be able to access the 2 sides from that one port. So that means we only have to have 2 openings, because every opening is a potential fume leak, so we don't want any more than we have to have. But that means that these 2 tanks are going to hold less fuel than we thought, but by adding this third one in, we'll actually end up with slightly more fuel storage than we would have, but we just have to use up this compartment. So that's the new plan. So we're cutting the new baffles to for port and starboard to get that all set up. So this one worked out well. We're going to go cut another one. What Jeff's up to right now is we're marking off the diesel tank baffles, and there's 6 of these, because there's actually 3 compartments for the diesel tanks now. And so what we're doing is we're putting in, this is where the actual tank top is. This is a gap here to leave enough room for our plumbing that will have to be in here, because we have to have enough room for these tubes to come out and turn up here. And these are vent holes near the top, these triangles that are going to be cut out here and here. This is down at the lowest point of the tank, so it can transfer through there. And we're going to drill a hole in the middle of these that will be just to let some wash through there. So that's going to basically be what the baffle layout is going to be like. And then Brian's over here cutting out the pieces that Jeff is currently preparing for him. So that's where we got to this week, and we did lose a little bit of time due to those winds, but we still got plenty of work accomplished.
Yes, and The boat's fine. We survived the winds and are very thankful that the fires got no closer than about 15 miles away from us.
Yeah, and we were just lucky. You know, we had a little trouble with that wind, but after we latched and ratcheted down everything, it all came through fine. So thank you all so much for your concern. A lot of people posted, you know, worried about how we were. We're fine. Most of LA is not. There's so many people who are, you know, no homes left, tens of thousands of people. And, you know, if you can go to one of the various donation sites and help them out, that would be greatly appreciated. Like I say, it's bad shape right now in LA. The fires are still burning at this point. Fortunately, the wind that was predicted for Sunday and last night didn't really manifest. So that's helpful in not spreading those fires to more homes. But thank you all for watching the video. We appreciate it. Like I say, we appreciate your concern about us and our project. And we'll see you next week, hopefully for more positive news as we continue work on the boat. And we've got a lot more new things to work on that week.
Yes, and thank you to our patrons listed here. We appreciate all of you so much. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.